Hi everyone and welcome to Bonnie Astrology. Today I'm going to be discussing the super new moon in Taurus happening on the 27th of April 2025 and of course what it means for your zodiac sign. As always, if you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like it. Subscribe to the channel for regular astrology content from me, and if you want to follow me on any of my socials or visit my website for reading bookings, all of the information is listed in the description box below. So the annual new moon in Taurus is going to be happening on the 27th of April, and anytime we have a new moon in Taurus, it is a wonderful time to plant seeds, both literally and metaphorically. Taurus season, especially around the time of the new moon, can be a time where we find ourselves getting a little bit more into gardening, more focused on the outdoors. It is spring in the northern hemisphere, and sometimes we like to be more active in our gardens. We like to go for hikes, go into the woods, go into the forest, be in nature. For a lot of people, this might be a time when you're wanting to grow your own veggies, grow your own fruits with the new moon in Taurus, and it's certainly a wonderful time to do so. But it's also a time of setting new intentions and metaphorically planting seeds for abundance and security later on. Taurus is a very patient energy. It's very grounded, it's very stable. And we like to move at a bit of a slower pace in Taurus season, especially around the new moon. We like to slow down and reflect on what we want for the long term, what we're willing to commit to, and what would bring us greater stability. If you're initiating something new under this new moon in Taurus, it's most likely going to be rooted in not only reality, but rooted in a sense of security and groundedness for the future, wanting to lay a stable foundation. And it's for this reason that when we have a new moon in Taurus, oftentimes people will set up new savings accounts, they will set up a financial savings goal. Now, with this new moon in particular, there is a bit of tension because it is happening shortly after the Mars-Pluto opposition. Mars and Pluto opposing each other in the signs of Leo and Aquarius. And so this new moon comes in and creates a T-square. So that means that because they're happening in the fixed signs, change is sometimes hard. And it's sometimes necessary, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the easiest thing to initiate. And for a lot of people, new beginnings and changes that are initiated under this new moon can be born out of frustration, they can be born out of tension, potentially with what's going on economically, potentially with what's going on from people in positions of leadership, whether that be government or whether that be in your own organization. It can be a tense time, and that tension and frustration can be the motivating factor to make a move, even in areas of life where maybe you have been in the same place for a very long time, in the same position for a long time, the same job, the same relationship, the same home. There can be something that makes you feel a little bit like you're being pushed out. That could be a power struggle with somebody else. That could be someone else's stubbornness and reluctance to change could maybe push you to making change. It can be the ambition or the ego of another person that is pushing you to make a change that feels more solid and secure for yourself. So it may be a time where maybe you don't trust people in positions of authority, maybe you don't feel like you're being well led, well guided, and you're deciding under this new moon it's time to make a change that is more sustainable and will bear fruit, even if it takes a little while for you in the long run. So this new moon in Taurus is saying that change is hard, but sometimes it's as good as a rest. And the reason I say that is because this new moon is actually ruled by Venus in Pisces. Venus is now direct in Pisces at the time of this new moon, and Venus loves being in Pisces. And Venus is conjunct Saturn. And if you think back to the full moon in Libra, April 13th, that I'm actually filming this under, the full moon was also ruled by Venus in Libra, Venus in Pisces conjunct Saturn in Pisces. So both lunations of April 2025 are ruled by Venus conjunct Saturn, meaning that when it comes to our relationships with that full moon in Libra, we're thinking about, is this long-term material? What am I wanting for the long term? Can I commit to this? Can we deepen the commitment? Should I be letting this go? Really testing the stability and the foundations of relationships. With this new moon, it's more financial. A lot of people found under the Venus retrograde cycle, as Venus does rule our finances, that they were spending more money than usual, money was unstable, money was fluctuating, and a lot of people were reevaluating their financial habits, what they spend money on. And so with this new moon in Taurus, this may be something that you're committing to financially after that period of reflection, reflecting what you spend your money on. I think there's an interesting theory that is called the lipstick theory, and it's to do with times of recession and how lipstick sales actually go up. And people initially thought that this would be silly, this wouldn't make sense because it would be regarded as something trivial, but it's actually regarded as a little luxury. Whenever there's times of recession and economic tension, people want to have little luxuries that they can justify rather than the big things like vacations or, you know, anything that's very luxurious to them. And with this new moon in Taurus, this may be a time when you're thinking of, okay, well, what is my priority, but also what is my little luxury, so to speak, with that Venus-Saturn conjunction. Venus-Saturn conjunctions are quite karmic when it comes to lessons surrounding money and relationships. So to summarize this new moon in Taurus, we may be pushed a bit into a position of making change, but it is change based on, I think for a lot of people, financial stability, abundance, groundedness, being in reality, but also perhaps starting saving plans more generally, getting into gardening more generally, and growing our own fruits and vegetables. That type of thing can really come up with a new moon in Taurus. It puts a lot of focus onto financial goals, and it also puts a lot of focus onto grounding those intentions. As I said before, ruled by Venus in Pisces. Pisces is a very sleepy energy. It's a restful energy. And with Venus being in Pisces at the time of this new moon and being the dispositor of this new moon, we may find that we are wanting to ground our dreams. Pisces is a dreamy energy, wanting to ground our dreams, wanting to take practical steps for our healing. You know, it can be something that feels healing to us. It can be a goal that we're operating behind the scenes with Pisces energy as well. So as always, I'm going to pull a tarot card for this new moon in Taurus. Let me know what you're up to under this new moon in Taurus. If you're into progressions, always check your progressed moon in astrology. Aside from your transits, you want to look at your progressions too. My progressed moon is in Taurus, and I've gotten really, really into gardening. And I have to say, it's just such a lovely hobby to have. And I'd never had any interest in it before until my moon progressed into Taurus. And I have to say, I'm finding it really enjoyable. So one thing that I will definitely be doing under this new moon is some gardening, weather permitted. But let's pull a tarot card for this new moon in Taurus. Queen of Pentacles, beautiful, earthy Taurian energy, really focusing on your money, on your finances, on your material assets. Perhaps for some people under this new moon, they're making a purchase for something that is practical and can possibly make or save them money. So investing your money into something maybe around the house or something that feels boring, you know, not necessarily something that's exciting, but putting your money into something that can help you save money. There's many different ways that can play out, but that might be something that's working for you at this time. Investing your money into something that saves you money in the long run or makes you money in the long run is quite positive under a new moon in Taurus, especially if it's ruled by Venus conjunct Saturn. This new moon is really about playing the long game and focusing on what can bring you more abundance long term. And abundance means more than just, you know, finances, stability. It can be what makes you happy. And for some that can be being outdoors, being in your garden, being in a forest, hiking, enjoying your outer environments with the Queen of Pentacles. And we can also see in the news more females who are Capricorns, Taurus, Virgos in the spotlight with the Queen of Pentacles energy as well. So I hope you all have a beautiful and blessed new moon in Taurus, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Aries, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Aries, this new moon for you could be a new beginning financially. So new moons in the second house often play out as moments where we open a new bank account, we set up a savings plan, we have a new source of income, we have a change in our source of income. It tends to represent a time of new beginnings or changes financially. Now, for you, this may be something that you are perhaps keeping quite private at this time or keeping quite behind the scenes, as this new moon is ruled by Venus in your 12th house conjunct Saturn. So this might be something you're working on privately. This can also be that perhaps for some of you, when it comes to your finances, you've really been reevaluating any quote-unquote bad habits with the 12th house, any way you have been self-sabotaging perhaps financially, or even ways where you've perhaps been self-sabotaging your sense of self or your sense of self-confidence or your values or your principles, because the new moon in the second can also coincide with a time where we get our priorities straight. We get, you know, what truly matters to us in order and we're very clear on what that is, or we're at least committing to a new path that feels grounded in our sense of self and what we believe to be appropriate and what we believe to be right. So for some of you, this can be a new start for you financially and to do with your financial affairs. I do think if it is with Venus being in the 12th, it's probably coming from a place of wanting to let go of anything that's self-sabotaging you financially or just sabotaging you financially. And, sort of addressing any financial leaks that you may be experiencing. That can be going through your bank statement with a fine-tooth comb. But it can also be something that you're working on privately or behind the scenes, with a hidden talent, for example, Aries. I think for a lot of you as well, your ruler Mars is in a square to this new moon. Your ruler Mars is in your 5th house, meaning that, what's really driving you at the moment is fun. It's a good time. It's having a good time. It's pleasure. It can also be romance is driving you at this time, or it can be you're really focused on your children or your kids right now. And I feel like for some of you with Pluto being in this T square, you might notice that friends or people that you're in groups or teams with are maybe, acting a bit shadowy, or they're playing some mind games, or there's power struggles, or they might just be, trying to manipulate you in terms of your choices or what you find fun or what you find important. Now, the way that this plays out financially is that you're trying to commit to something for yourself that is a good foundation that's stable in the long run, and that might conflict with the fun that you want to have, or the parties you want to go to, or what your kids want, or what you want in dating, or whatever the case may be. You're standing very firm on your principles, Aries. Your tarot card was the Ace of Swords. So I think for a lot of you, you might be making lists under this new moon. You might be having important conversations. You might be getting clarity on your financial affairs. You might be getting clarity on what you have as well, because the 2nd house is also possessions. So maybe under this new moon, you're making a significant purchase. I think for a lot of you as well, Venus and Saturn in the 12th house, you may be committing to something spiritually, or you might be having profound spiritual experiences that are maybe changing your viewpoint of your financial situation, or as I said before, your values. Aries, you seem to be getting very clear on what you want. With Mars in the 5th house, it's also balancing what makes you happy in the moment with what will be, stable and secure for you in the long run as well. And not to allow yourself to be too manipulated by other people's opinions on your decisions. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Taurus, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. Taurus, you are of course the main character of this new moon. Now it's happening in your sign, meaning that this is an annual check-in point with yourself of what you would like to initiate for yourself, who you want to be, who you are becoming, how you want to look, how you want to approach life. It's really a bit of an aesthetic reset for you, Taurus, and I think for a lot of you, you could be quite influenced by the people that you're friendly with. This could be a time when you take a friend shopping and you say, okay, well, what suits me? And they're helping you choose out some styles. It could be a time where you are really feeling like you want to maybe have a more spiritual aesthetic, or a floaty aesthetic, or a dreamy aesthetic, with Venus being in Pisces. But with Saturn being in the mix, you may also have quite a serious lens, and that's because Venus is your ruler. It's in the 12th house conjunct, the 11th house conjunct Saturn, but it's in the sign of Pisces, which is very dreamy. It can also be beachy and stuff like that. So I think for a lot of you, you seem to be getting a makeover at this new moon, or changing your style. Maybe that can be just something as simple as investing in a new pair of shoes. This can be getting your hair done. Your ruler Venus is direct at the time of this new moon and exalted in Pisces. So this can be a lovely time for an image change, a glow up. And you could be feeling really very much like yourself, or feeling more like yourself at the time of this new moon, Taurus. And interestingly enough, your tarot card, I just want to mention it before going into the rest of the astrology, because it's just sitting there looking for me. Your tarot card is the Empress, which is a beautiful energy. This is feeling very beautiful, feeling very handsome, feeling very attractive, having a lot of options, having a lot of abundance. And I think you're really embodying that energy at the time of this new moon. It can definitely be a good time for an image change. Maybe some of you are thinking of doing something with your hair, for example. Or you could be investing in a necklace or a necktie or a neckerchief or something like that, because you do rule the neck. Now, other things that are happening at this new moon, Taurus, there's a square from Mars in Leo, which is your 4th house of home and family, and Pluto is in your 10th house of career and public image. I think for a lot of you with Mars in your 4th house and Pluto in your 10th, there can be power struggles going on when it comes to your public and private life. Just remember with oppositions, there's often no winner. There can be a time where you're just having to rebalance something that's out of balance to the best of your abilities, and you're the focal point of this T-square, so I think you're the one that other people are perhaps looking to for guidance, or you're the one that has to make the call. Inevitably, with a new moon in your sign, I feel like you're going to choose what is best for your future. For some of you, there could be tension in home and family matters. For others of you, there can be power struggles when it comes to work and career. Maybe you're becoming more prominent in your career and your family is frustrated with it, or frustrated with not having enough time with you. Or it could be a case that maybe they don't agree with your career choice, or maybe they don't agree with what you're putting out there publicly. And there can be an ego confrontation between, you and your family, or you and your boss. That can be another way that this plays out under the new moon in your sign. But inevitably with the new moon in your sign, this is about you, Taurus, and you might find that you realize with that opposition, maybe nobody's going to be 100% happy. So you kind of have to focus on what is best for you, and not so much what everyone else thinks you should do, especially when it comes to your career. I think for many of you with Pluto going through the 10th house, you're really transforming what you want from your career and what you want from life. And you're presenting yourself, Taurus, as a more powerful person, as someone who is more in control, as someone who is willing to evolve and change professionally. And of course, when we make changes in the 10th house, that can disrupt and change our home and family life as well. And Mars is, it's amplifying that energy. But this new moon is one to focus on yourself and who you're becoming and who you are, Taurus. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Gemini, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Gemini, this new moon is happening in your 12th house. And this is a very private and sleepy part of the chart. So if you feel like you need to get some extra rest, you need some alone time, you need some retreat time, that is okay. Especially with new moons, you can feel particularly exhausted in the couple of days before the new moon. So from the 25th, 26th, you might be extra tired, might need some extra rest or sleep. So just bear that in mind with this one. This can be a time when you're beginning something behind the scenes as well, beginning something privately, something that you're keeping to yourself for now. That could be a project, that could be something that you are getting, a lot of confidence from, or something that you're really investing in, and you might just want to keep it to yourself for a little bit. You could be putting some plans in place behind the scenes, so to speak. For some of you with this new moon, it is ruled by Saturn. Well, it's not ruled by Saturn, it's ruled by Venus conjunct Saturn in your 10th house. For a lot of you, pay attention to who you're connecting with socially at this time, because you might have some people who can help you professionally. You might have more opportunities to socialize with prominent people, the boss, for example, good connections. And they could be helping you with something behind the scenes. You could find that your work connections are helping you work on something privately, or you're working on something privately that you're going to launch inevitably. Maybe you're bringing the private work that you've been doing forward with Venus in a very public, prominent house for you. But I think for the most of you, you could be perhaps committing to a work goal behind the scenes. This is a year of work goals for you. It's a year of career focus for you with the North Node being there, and it can be, for example, if you're not working, or it can be that this is a goal that you might go public with. So that can be many things. It doesn't have to be your job. But I think with this new moon, you're really focused on putting in the efforts and the work behind the scenes. Now, this new moon is part of a T-square, Mars is going through Leo, Gemini, which, just so you're aware, it can sometimes heat up your words a little bit. You might not even necessarily mean to do it, but your words could come across as a bit more argumentative or aggressive or confrontational, or you could notice that other people are being like that with you, or at least it feels that way. And Mars going through the third house as well. Be very, 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 very careful of driving too fast, driving recklessly, driving when angry. Just a warning. Because Mars going through the third in opposition with Pluto can sort of be a bit volatile. It can be volatile for everyone, but I'm just highlighting where for each person. I'm not trying to scare you, I promise. But Mars going through the third house, it's a time to slow down on the road or just, avoid it altogether. This is a new moon in the 12th. Stay home, chill out, take the day off. Pluto being in your ninth house, though. Pluto going through the ninth house could have some arguments and clashes when it comes to ideology, when it comes to religion, when it comes to worldview. So be mindful of that at this time. It can be that you get into such a clash with somebody that it causes an ending with a new moon in the 12th as well. So just bear in mind that the heat is on at the time of this new moon with that Mars-Pluto opposition, and for you it's very conversational, and it could really be when conversations escalate and there's just no winners involved. Mars-Pluto oppositions can cause severances, so just be mindful before you get into, a confrontation or a debate with a neighbour or a mentor or someone at your school. It can sort of escalate beyond repair, and this new moon in the 12th can be a time where maybe you're initiating an ending in your life, or you're letting go of something. And because of that opposition, it might not necessarily be what you want to let go of in the long run. But, you're focusing now on what you want to let go of in the long run, or what you want to work on privately. I do think for a lot of you, there could be something therapeutic for this new moon for you. We got the Devil card, which can be where you're perhaps facing fears, you're facing self-sabotaging behaviors, you're facing your shadow side with the Devil. The Devil oftentimes represents fear. So I think for a lot of you, you could be working through some fear when it comes to maybe, confrontation or conflict, or when it comes to how you communicate with others or have debate with that Mars-Pluto opposition. But certainly the Devil can be a time where you really feel ruled by your fears, and a new moon can be a time when you go inward and you think, why does this scare me so much? Where does this come from? What is the root? That type of thing. So that's what I have for you, Gemini, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Cancer, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Cancer, this new moon is happening in your 11th house, so this is putting a bit of a focus on setting new intentions when it comes to friendships, groups, teams, and also aspirations. I love new moons in the 11th house for setting intentions and manifestations for the future, dreaming big with a new moon in the 11th, really focusing on what the ideal future would look like, and sort of a shoot for the stars, and if you don't make it, you'll land on top of the moon kind of thing. You're ruled by the moon, you know what I mean. So set some intentions under this new moon for sure, especially if they're pertaining to travel, higher education, traveling to a certain country, traveling the world, getting a degree, getting a diploma, getting a mentor, getting a teacher. Any of those things, if that's what your goal is very well aspected under this new moon. It's ruled by Venus conjunct Saturn in the 9th house. So for some of you, you could be making new friends or networking with new people who maybe they're from a different country, yes. Maybe they're from your university or your college. Maybe they're well educated. Maybe use similar views and beliefs in the world as well. The new moon is part of a T-square with Mars and Pluto, and it's the focal point. So for some of you, you may be wanting to network and make social connections because you're frustrated with whatever is going on for you financially, Cancer. Mars is in Leo opposite Pluto in your 8th house. So Mars in Leo in the 2nd, Pluto in Aquarius in the 8th, this opposition. Mars-Pluto oppositions are notoriously gnarly. They can bring a lot of frustration into the mix and challenge when it comes to, your financial dynamics, especially if it's with a spouse, your spouse's money, your spouse's income, or government, the money you receive from the bank, mortgages, loans, that type of thing could be sources of frustration for you at this time. There could be clashes between you and a spouse when it comes to values as well, or financial priorities. And I think for you, Cancer, with this new moon in Taurus, you may realize that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this could be inspiring you to network, to talk to your friends who are maybe more financially minded, and also to set some intentions and manifestations for the future as well. Your tarot card, Cancer, was the Three of Swords. Pluto in the 8th can sometimes, when it's activated, stir up a bit of past emotional pain to be addressed, to be felt. It is a shadowy house, so you might find with Pluto going in there that you're uncovering old wounds or old feelings that you'd forgotten about. These can be pertaining to your financial situation, but they can also be pertaining to your worthiness more generally, Cancer. So that is what I have for you. I hope you have a great new moon, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Leo, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Leo, you're one of the most affected by this new moon for sure. It's happening at the top of your chart in a very public and prominent house. So there could be something being publicized about you at this time. You could have something to say, something to declare, something to announce. For some of you, there could be a new beginning for you professionally, a new chapter in your professional life. Now, interestingly, with this being a new moon in the 10th house, so that could be a new job, that could be a new chapter in your job, a new position, a new career altogether, leaving a job. It's ruled by Venus conjunct Saturn in your 8th house. And the 8th house is, quite a vulnerable, shadowy space. So for some of you, you could be finding under this new moon that perhaps what you're bringing publicly career-wise is maybe pertaining to the occult. Maybe it's pertaining to astrology. Maybe it's pertaining to psychology. Maybe it's pertaining to shadow work or something a little bit different or taboo. Or it could be to do with, joint financial endeavors, your partner's money, your partner's income. It could be to do with money you receive from the government. It could be the bank, your mortgage, loans, that type of thing. For a lot of you, you could be finding under this new moon that you're maybe beginning a new chapter professionally that involves some sort of grant or loan or, benefit from someone else financially. So maybe, you're starting a side business and your partner is going to foot the bills. It can be something like that, or it can be you're getting a grant for a business that you're opening, a grant for a business that you're running. Or as I say, it could be that the 8th house is the flavor of your new professional path. So it could be that maybe you're putting maybe you've a strong interest in investing, or you have a strong interest in, as I say, astrology or psychology or something like that, and you're putting it more out in the public sphere. You're sort of, I think, when it comes to your career, in a bit of a vulnerable space, Leo, where you're trying to be a little bit more maybe open about how you feel, or you're just maybe feeling a little bit vulnerable about your career. Like, what does this look like in the long run? What is this going to be for me in the long run? And, that could be something that you're maybe working through. It's interesting though for you because Mars is in your sign in an opposition with Pluto in your opposite sign, Aquarius. There can be power struggles in your life between you and someone else. Pluto going through Aquarius, I've noticed for some Leo risings, your early degree Leo risings that I know, other people can be quite controlling, other people can be quite manipulative, there can be power struggles with other individuals, not necessarily a spouse, but it can be a spouse, it can be a partner where there's a power struggle afoot. For some of you, it can just be that you feel challenged by another individual, or you feel as though you just can't win with somebody else. With Mars being in your sign, it typically gives you more energy. You tend to be more physically active. Not always though, but it can be a time when you're really pushing yourself to achieve something. And I think a lot of you are very goal-oriented with this new moon. But you may find that some people are just not helpful with that opposition. And it can be a time to really, you can find other people quite triggering, or you can find that your conflict is triggered. Your conflict with someone else can be triggered at the time of this new moon. And it could be pushing you in a new direction with a new goal. For some of you, it can be this challenging energy of someone saying, well, you could never do that. And you say, well, watch me. Watch me. Your tarot card is the strength card, Leo, which is exactly that. You having the strength, you having the confidence, and you having the power to pursue your goals, to put yourself out there, and to be proud of who you are. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Virgo, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Virgo, this new moon is happening in your 9th house. and the new moon is ruled by Venus in your 7th house conjunct Saturn. For some of you, this honestly looks like taking a trip with a partner, whether that be romantic or business. For some of you, taking a honeymoon, planning a honeymoon, and it could be traveling for a partner or with a partner. So maybe a long distance relationship is forming, or you are traveling with your significant other, or you're traveling on a business trip with your business partner. For a lot of you, this new moon being in the 9th house is a chance to reflect on travel more broadly, where you want to go, if there's somewhere you want to put on your bucket list, if there's somewhere you want to visit. It can also be, for some of you, that this new moon is putting a spotlight on your beliefs and your perspectives of the world, your viewpoint of the world. It can be quite optimistic, a new moon in the 9th house. Some of you could be beginning a new course of study, going to get a degree, getting a diploma, committing to something with your education, and this could actually be somewhere that you meet a partner, or you could have a study buddy that you're committed to at this time as well, Virgo. There is a T-square energy with this new moon. So Mars is in your 12th house, squaring this new moon in your 9th. Pluto is in your 6th house, squaring this new moon in your 9th. I think when it comes to your work, your day job, your roles, your responsibilities, someone that you're working for, someone who's powerful, or power struggles in the workplace may sort of exacerbate the differences that you have in terms of your beliefs, in terms of your viewpoints. You might clash on your ideals, you might clash on what you believe is appropriate, what is right, maybe even ethically right. Pluto going through the 6th, it tends to bring about significant change and transformation in the work you do, in the services that you provide, Virgo. Now, Mars being in the 12th in opposition, you may feel betrayed by someone at work. You may feel like something at work is a losing battle. You can't win. Mars going through the 12th house can be where you have, unfortunately, hidden enemies coming out of the blue. Someone could just be on the defensive in a work environment, and you could really feel quite taken aback by their strange or strong reactions. You could feel a bit let down or a bit betrayed. You could notice power struggles going on in the workplace, and you just simply feel as though, I need to get out of here and take a trip. I need to take a vacation. Or maybe you're thinking, I want to make some changes pertaining to my work and my job. And maybe some of you are thinking further afield, or maybe some of you are thinking, okay, well, I can't change this situation right now, so I'm going to have to change my beliefs, my vision, my higher perspectives. And that's not about changing your religion or your principles or anything like that, but you may start to adjust your sails, so to speak. I think for a lot of you, Virgo, with this Mars-Pluto opposition happening in the 6th and the 12th, you could find work a very challenging place. You could also notice that maybe something from a health matter is flaring up if you're not getting enough rest and enough downtime. I have noticed time and time again that when Mars goes through the 12th house, sometimes people feel a bit sick. They can feel a bit under the weather, or even a bit mentally upset as well. So just make sure you're taking time to rest, taking time for self-care, taking time to take time for yourself. I sometimes think Virgo placements struggle with that. They struggle with the resting part. Pisces is your opposite sign, which is the sign of rest, and you can struggle with that because you want to be productive and you want to be of service. This might be a time to take a trip, to take a vacation, to take some time out instead of trying to solve an unsolvable conflict in a work matter, Virgo. Maybe sometimes taking a bit of space from these things can be better for a perspective shift. Your tarot card, though, was the Knight of Pentacles, so anything work-related, take it slow. Don't rush anything. Take a slow and steady approach. The answers will reveal themselves in time. Make sure that you are not rushing anything at this time and focusing on stability and abundance for the long run. Taking it one step at a time, in the wise words of Jordan Sparks. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Libra, welcome to the New Moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Libra, this new moon is happening in your 8th house, and the 8th house is where we transform. And it's also to do with our shared financial resources. So one way that this may play out for a few Libra risings is that there may be a new beginning financially. This can be because you're entering a relationship, this can be because you're getting a loan, a mortgage, or you're setting the intention of such. It doesn't have to happen on the day of the new moon, but you might be thinking, okay, I think I want to buy a property, or you're thinking, okay, I think I want to join my finances with my partner, or you're sort of thinking along the lines of improving your financial situation for the long term, for something tangible, Libra, because this new moon, the dispositor is Venus conjunct Saturn in your 6th house of habits. So maybe you're thinking long term financially, and this is in turn changing your habits. This can also be a time where you're maybe thinking of making significant transformations to your health and your well-being with that Venus Saturn conjunction in the 6th house, and you may be changing your diet and how you exercise and take care of yourself. Some of you may also be getting some sort of financial benefit through your work or your job, or you could be receiving some sort of financial payment when it comes to your health, or maybe something to do with insurance or something like that. With Venus Saturn conjunct in your 6th house of health, there could be some payment coming to you for your health, or this could be a time when you're wanting to transform your health in some way, Libra. I will also say sometimes new moons in the 8th house are times where we get just a little bit more interested in the occult or interested in the taboo. Maybe you're wanting to listen to ghost stories, or you're wanting to look more into studying astrology or something of that nature. There could be a bit of a reset in your practice of astrology, especially if you do it, as a job, or your job is somewhat taboo, with the 6th house element being included here. Now, this new moon is coming at a time where we've just passed the Mars-Pluto opposition, but the new moon is activating it into a T-square. So for you, Libra, Mars is in your 11th house of groups. So you could be having some challenging experiences or frustrations or irritations with groups of people, teams of people, team members. Pluto is in your 5th house, so you may also be finding that you're really transforming what it is that you love, what it is makes you happy. And I think with this new moon, perhaps for some of you, you're really starting to consider who in your life you're closest to and you can be truly yourself with, who you can be vulnerable with, Libra. People that you really can connect with authentically, where you don't feel you're having to mask, or you don't feel you're having to pretend, or you don't feel like you're having to keep secrets with this new moon, because this new moon's all about, assessing what is abundant for us all. And the 8th house is very much to do with the type of connections where we can be intimate and vulnerable with other people. Your tarot card, Libra, is the Hermit. This is all about looking within. It's introspection, soul searching, solitude. So maybe you're wanting to do some soul searching with this new moon in the 8th house, maybe study some astrology or something a little taboo, or something that you can work on privately. That's what I have for you, Libra, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi, Scorpio. Welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So, Scorpio, this new moon is happening in your 7th house of relationships. So, new moons are times of new beginnings, new chapters, setting intentions. For you, this is very focused on partnerships and relationships. So with a new moon here, if you are single, you could be beginning a partnership. There could be a new relationship entering your life, especially because this new moon, the dispositor, is Venus in your 5th house conjunct Saturn. So you may be looking at someone where there is perhaps an age gap with the Venus Saturn conjunction, or you might be looking at someone who is very much your type romantically, because the 5th house is about romance. So you could perhaps be taking a more serious approach to your dating life or a romantic prospect. For some of you, this could be a new chapter in your relationship life, where if you're coupled in a serious relationship and you want children, this could be a new beginning in making that happen, or this could be the birth of a child. For some of you, this could simply be wanting to incorporate more romance into your relationship, and maybe committing to dating your spouse again, maybe committing to dating your significant other again, if things have been a bit strained with Saturn in the 5th house. But for a lot of you, this is very much a new chapter in your relationship life, Scorpio. So the relationships you're in, one significant relationship may change. You may enter a new relationship or something of that matter. And I do think that it's very much based on what makes you feel happy in a relationship. With Venus in the 5th, what makes you feel excited about life and joyful. You might also find with the Venus in the 5th energy, you're taking with Saturn, a calculated risk in love. But there is a fixed T-square going on, Scorpio. And you are the missing link in making this a grand cross. So I think with the squares to this new moon from both your traditional and modern ruler, your modern ruler being Pluto, your traditional being Mars, there is potential for a bit of tension in your life at this time, Scorpio. So Mars being in your 10th house, you know, you're wanting to show up in your career. You might have a lot going on at work. You might have a lot of people, particularly men, that are asking things of you in your workplace or through your career. Pluto is in your 4th house, which is transforming your home, your family. It could be that you're going through a renovation, a move. You could be, your family life could be transforming quite significantly, Scorpio. And you may be feeling pulled in multiple different directions between your partner, your career, your home situation, where you're living, who your family is, that type of thing. So there can be a bit of tension with you at this time. Try not to get into arguments, just because I think with a Mars-Pluto opposition, there's really never a winner, Scorpio. This is a nice new moon, I think, to set new intentions in your relationships that are rooted in love. So whatever type of relationship it is, whether it's partner, family, career, with Venus being in the 5th house conjunct Saturn, you know, think about what would make you happy in the long run. And it's probably not burning every bridge that comes under tension at the time of this new moon. So your tarot card, Scorpio, is the Queen of Pentacles. So you may be thinking very much of, I mean, this was the card for the Taurus new moon. You might be thinking of what you consider to be abundant in a relationship. You know, what is it that makes your relationships fulfilling? And I think you're seeking to bring more of that into your relationships. This can also feature Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, people quite heavily into your new moon experience. That is what I have for you, Scorpio, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Sagittarius, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Sagittarius, this new moon is a little bit of a checkup for you because it's happening in your 6th house, which is to do with health. So this might be a new moon that coincides with a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment, a checkup, an annual, a physical, something like that. Or you might be booking that under this new moon. You might be finding that you're wanting to begin something new health-wise, joining a gym, for example. You might be wanting to begin a new way of eating, a new way of exercising, getting a personal trainer, something like that. I think for a lot of you Sagittarius, as adventurous as a sign that you are, this new moon, because the dispositor is Venus in your 4th house, these are things you might be thinking of doing from home. So setting up a home gym, exercising from home, stocking your fridge with the things that you need, walking in your neighborhood, and if it's with a person rather than in the home, it could be someone you live with, you and a roommate, or signing up to the gym together, for example. I think for a lot of you, you're very focused on your home and your family commitments at the moment. Sagittarians with Saturn in the 4th may be spending some more time at home than usual. I think for a lot of you, you're very focused on perhaps beautifying your home, renovating your home, making it a lovely space to be in with the Venus-Saturn conjunction in your 4th house. And I think for a lot of you, this new moon is where you're maybe even, you know, thinking about working from home more, or considering your working arrangements and how they suit your family. So this new moon is in the 6th house, so that can be a new job, or it can be a new role, or a new chapter in your work, or a new service that you're providing, you know, something new to do with the workplace. As I say, for some of you, this could be, I think for some Sagittarians, you could be focusing on a home office, and some could be focusing on a home gym. You know, it could be either way, but it's sort of what you can do from home, I think, is a big part for this new moon. And if it's not that, it's how it affects your family or your living situation or your living experience more generally. Now, Mars is in Leo and has just finished its opposition to Pluto, but it's still active, and this new moon is activating it. For you, Sagittarius, Mars is in the 9th house. Pluto is in the 3rd. So there's a very strong energy of debate going on for you at this time, Sagittarius, and some debates just simply could, under that opposition, get ugly. And you may find that they are, you know, changing the way that you work. Or you might be sort of noticing that maybe some information that you're taking in from social media or some perspectives that you're taking in from other people are maybe making you feel a little bit ill. I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you're sensitive enough to it, sometimes you can watch something on YouTube or the news or something like that, and then a little while later you start to realize you feel a bit sick. Some of you might be more sensitive to that and see maybe where you want to kind of change the information that you're taking in, or the conversations or the dialogues that you are getting involved in. Sagittarius, you might be really thinking, is this information good for me? Is it good for my health? Or are these conversations maybe harming work or working relationships as well? Your tarot card, Sagittarius, was the Wheel of Fortune, which is lovely. That's your card. So there's an element of destiny under this new moon. You might find that there is something fated comes up when it comes to your work, when it comes to your perspective. You may find that there's a lucky opportunity, or you're also finding that, I think with this new moon being in the 6th house, maybe you're just sort of focusing on making the path that you're on as healthy for you as possible without needing to know what lies ahead. That's what I have for you, Sagittarius, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Capricorn, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Capricorn, this new moon is falling in your 5th house, which is a fun house. This is where you can see a new beginning in your love life, particularly if you're single. There could be a new romantic prospect in the scene for you. There could be a new romance brewing. This new moon is ruled by Venus in the 3rd house conjunct Saturn. So for some of you, this could be, if you're looking for a new romantic prospect, you could meet them locally. You could meet them online, for example, with the 3rd house being in play. For others of you, this can be a new beginning when it comes to children. So for some of you, it could be a pregnancy. You could be getting news of a pregnancy. You could be finding out you're pregnant. You could be giving birth. For others of you, this could be a new beginning or a chapter with your child. And for a lot of you, it could be that if you have children, they may be beginning a course of study. They may be, going to school for the first time. You might be focused on their schooling. Maybe they're getting results. Maybe they're doing an exam. Maybe they're starting a new chapter in their schooling, their education, something of that nature, as it is that Venus-Saturn conjunction in the 3rd house. So there could be something coming up with your children as well, especially when it comes to their education. For others of you where none of that applies, which is entirely possible, it could be under this new moon, Capricorn, that you're beginning something for fun. And I think for a lot of you, what will make you have a good time is possibly reading, writing. You might have a podcast you're listening to or you're starting. You might be really interested in taking a course, learning a topic, signing up for a class, something like that. You've got something new that's making you happy, that's making you feel fulfilled, that you're really enjoying, I think, Capricorn. So focus under this new moon on what makes you happy, what makes you feel excited again. And I think for a lot of you, it could be reading. It could be that one book that changes, you get so excited to read it, that podcast that you're listening to that you get excited to read, for example. Or listen to rather, something of that nature. Or it could be a fun hobby that you're doing with a sibling, or a fun hobby that you're doing with a neighbour, or something of that nature. But either way, I think with this new moon, you're really wanting to activate your inner child energy and have a good time. Now, there is a fixed T-square with this new moon. Mars is in Leo, which is for you to do with joint financial matters. Pluto is in your 2nd house, which is to do with your money. There's possibly, when it comes to, if you and a partner have children, or you have children with an ex or something of that nature, some of you might be having a bit of tension when it comes to the financial implications of paying for things or something of that nature. For others of you, this could just be that perhaps you're finding, when it comes to money, you're feeling a little bit tense about it. You're feeling a bit frustrated about it, but you're still wanting to have a good time. Mars going through the 8th can be this push to, get that mortgage, get that loan, pay off that debt. A lot of your energy is going towards these things. But you may find with Pluto going through your 2nd house that your money is changing, or you find sometimes with Pluto, you can feel incredibly empowered, but other times you can feel incredibly oppressed when it comes to your financial situation. And you might just be feeling under this new moon that Maybe you want an additional source of income, and that could be something that you're thinking, well, what are my talents? What are my hobbies? And could any of these make me money on the side, for example? Some of you may be thinking along those lines as well, Capricorn. So let's get you a tarot card for you. Oh, it's the Empress. That's beautiful. Especially for a new moon in the 5th. That for a lot of you could be fertility, that could be pregnancy, it could be birth. But, you know, the Empress card is just about love and feeling very loved and abundant and maybe feeling more attractive. A lot of you that are dating, this could be a really good sign of getting the attention that you want from people that you like. But for others of you, as I say, this can just be you feeling very creative and really enjoying something that you're doing. That's what I have for you, Capricorn, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Aquarius, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Aquarius, this new moon is happening in your 4th house, which means that if there's a new beginning occurring at the time of this new moon, it can be very much rooted in your living situation, in your home environment and your family. So for some of you, this could be moving. There could be a change in your living situation. There could be change in your roommates. There could be a new beginning with your family. So for one person, that is moving. For another person, that is perhaps beginning the process of a move, you know, setting the intentions of the type of house you want, the living arrangement that you want. Some of you could get new roommates. Some of you could have a new addition to the family. You know, say, for example, you become an uncle or an aunt or something like that. That could be happening for you at this time, Aquarius. But a lot of you are really thinking about your living situation. For some of you on a more mundane level, because not every new moon in the 4th brings a move. This could be a time when you're redecorating, or this could be a time when you're adding some finishing touches to the home. And I think for a lot of you, you could be spending money on your living situation because the dispositor of this new moon is Venus conjunct Saturn in your 2nd house of finances, your income, your money. So you could be investing some of your money into the home. You could be making a financial commitment to a property, to a renovation, to some decor, to a contractor or something like that. Or it could be that perhaps you're bringing someone a housewarming gift. But it feels very much for you, Aquarius, that this new moon is all about new energy in your home and with your family. Now, there is a fixed T-square, and that affects you, Aquarius, as a fixed sign. So Pluto is in your sign, which means that you're finding, a lot of you have found since 2023, March specifically, when Pluto first entered your sign, you're going through this process of intense transformation. Some of you could have had physical transformations. Some of you could have really transformed your lifestyle, the way that you're living, the way that you approach the world. And now we have Mars in your sector of relationships and partnerships. So Mars here can put a lot of energy and effort into pursuing a relationship, forming a relationship, putting a lot of energy and time and effort into partnerships and relationships. When you're in a relationship, sometimes Mars going through the 7th can heat things up for better or worse. You know, it can be a more passionate time, but it can also be a time where there's maybe more bickering or conflict. And you could find, Aquarius, that perhaps some of the changes that you're making or some of the transformations in your own life, you have a partner saying, well, what about me? Or something of that nature. And it can come to a head with this new moon. You and a partner might be thinking, okay, this living situation needs to change to accommodate what you and I want, that kind of energy. There could be something going on when it comes to where you're living and your lifestyle and a partner's lifestyle with that opposition. So this new moon can be a new start in terms of your living situation, but it could be that there's some tension of how you get there, or there could just be some with that Mars Pluto opposition moving parts. I would say just be careful of getting into arguments with people around this time, because with oppositions like that, they're very rarely fruitful. You know, it's not a great one for confrontation, because with Mars Pluto oppositions, nobody really wins, and it can do a lot more damage than it's worth. So I would say with this new moon, you know, think more so along the lines of what you want your living situation to be like, and how that could potentially, you know, if you're in a relationship, accommodate you and someone else, or if it is, you know, your living situation is maybe not great for your relationships in general. You know, maybe you're thinking, I really want to live somewhere totally remote where no one can reach me. And then you're thinking, actually that might be a bit lonely. You could be thinking something like that, Aquarius, at the time of this new moon. But I think for a lot of you, it could definitely be a change in your living situation that's coming up for you. Your tarot card, Aquarius, is the Magician, which is a lovely card. This is all about making things happen. It's about confidence and willpower, and using your imagination to manifest your desires into reality. So absolutely set intentions with this new moon. Your traditional ruler Saturn is next to Venus in your second house. So, you have the ability to manifest more abundance for yourself, more confidence in yourself, confidence in your abilities, and that's really helping you ground your ideas in reality, Aquarius. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Pisces, welcome to the new moon in Taurus horoscope for your sign. So Pisces, this new moon is happening in your third house. So new beginning, potentially when it comes to a car. There could be a new beginning with a vehicle. That could be that you're buying a car. That could be that you're making some changes to your car. It could be that you're getting a new phone, a new gadget. For some of you, you could be starting a new podcast, a new social media account, a social media business. The reason I say that, Pisces, is because the dispositor of this new moon, Venus, is in your sign conjunct Saturn. So you are making some sort of personal commitment, maybe to a car, to a phone, to a gadget, to a social media space, to the internet, to writing a book, to creating a blog, whatever the case is, Pisces. And I think a lot of you are very committed to your communication. Maybe for some of you that is wanting to be a more effective communicator, wanting to be a more mature communicator. For some of you, that could be also that you're, taking up singing, or you're taking some sort of class to help you improve your tonality or your voice or your communication skills. Or you're maybe wanting to have a bit of a reset or a revamp with your social media to be more in harmony with who you are and who you're becoming, Pisces. Because with the Venus retrograde in your sign, you were maybe changing quite a bit. The North Node's there now. So when it comes to your branding, Pisces, you're really going in new directions. And if you have online presence, and it doesn't have to be a business, but if you have online presence, you're maybe thinking you want to change your aesthetic online, or you want to change how you're perceived online. But I do think for a lot of you, you could absolutely be starting something new from a social media perspective. For some of you, you could be starting a course, you could be signing up for workshops, you could be getting more involved in your local community, maybe being a little bit more front and center in your community with your neighbors. There can be a new beginning with a neighbor, there can be a new beginning with a sibling. And I think whatever it is that you're starting at this time, Pisces, it's very driven by the self. And I don't mean in a selfish way, but you could be very self-motivated at this time. You could also, with the third house, be signing a contract, or you could be verbally negotiating something at this time, maybe financially, because it's in the sign of Taurus. So yeah, I think for a lot of you, Pisces, this is going to be a really good one for setting intentions verbally or writing them down and watching them manifest. I always think back to this when I first got into manifestation and working with new moons. I remember, because I had this moon journal that I got for Christmas, and I remember it came to the new moon in Taurus, and I remember writing down this really obscure random sum of money, where you have the pennies and everything in it, and saying that I was manifesting this amount of money. And I remember 6 months later, on the full moon in Taurus, I received a tax rebate, and it was that exact sum to the penny, and it still to this day freaks me out. It really still to this day freaks me out. So maybe if some of you want to, set financial intentions, that's your sign to do so, with it being in the sign of Taurus, or you're wanting to write something down and see it manifest. It is more likely under a new moon in the third. So there is a T-square energy happening here for you, Pisces. Mars is in your 6th house, so you're probably finding that you're more physically active, or you're wanting to be more an active participant in taking care of your health. So that can be changing your diet, going to the gym more. Mars in the 6th often coincides with big, moves when it comes to fitness, when it comes to health. So running a marathon, something like that usually happens when someone has Mars going through the 6th. It could be that you are really focused in the gym, exercise, working out, but it can also be that there's some work tension or tension with co-workers. And I think with Pluto being in your 12th house, you know, you're wary of hidden enemies, things that you don't see, things that you miss, things that you feel intuitively. And that opposition is maybe saying there could be a secret coming out when it comes to work. There could be a secret coming out when it comes to someone you work with. You might have something that you've overlooked and it's affecting your mental health. So you're trying to prioritize the work you do and your routines and how that helps your mental health, Pisces. And I think with this new moon, some of you might find that, you know, really improving or focusing on your communication and your mindset are going to be what it takes to move you out of a situation. You know, maybe you have a message that you need to send. Maybe you have something you need to say. Maybe you have something that you need to change with your mindset or the way that you think or the way that you communicate in order to get you out of a situation that's maybe harming you mentally and physically, I will say, when it comes to your work. And if you think back to early January, especially, it might give you a clue as to what that was, Pisces. Your tarot card for this new moon is the moon. So a lot of major arcana today. I think with Pluto being in the 12th house, a lot of you are really feeling you understand the power of what you don't see. You understand the power of what is not tangible. You know, whether that is your mental health, whether that is your subconscious mind, whether that is the secrets that are hidden. You're in this place of understanding the power that these things hold, which is why I think for a lot of you, you could be seeing a therapist, you could be listening to subliminals, you could be working through your blind spots, Pisces, just so that you're more aware of the truth, because you feel as though with Saturn in the first house and Pluto in the 12th, you are really committed to personal honesty and personal accountability, and you don't want hidden forces holding you back. So I think with this new moon, for a lot of you, you could be finding that you want to speak the truth more, but you're aware that you have to do it in a certain way, you know, especially when it comes to professional relationships, Pisces. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon.